Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another class of Business Communication of CSEET. So today we are going to deal with the part 2 of lesson 1, that is English grammar and its usage. So in the previous class, we learned the importance of grammar as well as the various parts of speech that form a part of the English language. So today, let's dive into the next part, that is part 2 of the first chapter. Yes. So to begin with, today's first topic will be combination words. So what exactly are combination words? So combination words are those words which are combined with already existing words in order to form new words. So basically, combination word is an additional word that is added to a word in the English language that already exists, and the combination of these two will form a new word. So let's take for example, so if we say arc, we can say arc rival. So rival is an already existing word in the English language, and by adding the arc, this becomes a whole new word, that is arc rival. Similarly, we have auto. So if I add auto to biography, autobiography becomes an entirely new word. So in this manner, any word that is added to an already existing word will form a new word, and this word which is added will be known as a combination word. Similarly, to take more examples, we can have bio. So under bio, we can have biography, biology. Similarly, we can have tele. So under tele, we can have telepathy, telephone, television, and then we can have mal. So under mal, we can have malpractice, malfunction, so on and so forth. So this way, all of these words that we can see here, that is bio, tele, mal, and in our previous examples that we took, auto and arc. So all of these become combination words wherein they're added to a word and it forms a completely new word. Yes. So moving on to the next part of this chapter is our punctuation marks. So what exactly are punctuation marks? So as important as the part of speeches are in the English language, punctuation marks are equally important. Why is that so? So punctuation marks gives emphasis on the sentence. It helps us in understand the tone of the speaker while they are writing or even when they are orally speaking. So punctuation marks helps in understanding and marking the separates, that is, separate sentences, and also within those sentences to clarify the meaning. So as I was mentioning earlier, it emphasizes the meaning of the sentence and brings about modulation in sentences, that is to express the tone of the user, and it also helps in highlighting certain words. So this way, the punctuation marks in English language are very important as how the parts of the speech are. So as we all know, there are multiple punctuation marks. So to begin with, we have the full stop, we have comma, we have exclamatory mark, question mark, semicolon, colon, apostrophe, and the hyphen. So in today's class, we will be going through each punctuation one by one. So to begin with, the first one, we have the space. So the space, even though it is not a mark in itself, it is the most basic form of punctuation that exists in the English language. So how does space help? So space helps separates words, sentences, paragraphs, and chapters. So what space does is it gives a demarcation between the various phrases, words that is used in any particular sentence or any particular paragraph. So if you could see right here itself, between every word, there is a space. So this space helps in differentiating these words, sentences apart from each other. So just as there is space between these words, there is also space between these two sentences. So if you could see here, there is space between these two sentences, which indicates that this sentence is different from the previous one. And similarly, so between words, there will be a single space, as we can all clearly see here. And between paragraphs, there will be a one-line space. So it could be between paragraphs or it could be sentences that form part of different paragraphs. Moving on to the next type of punctuation mark in the English language is the full stop. So full stop, as we all know, is also known as stop, point, or a period. So these are the various terms that are used for full stop. So what exactly is the purpose of using a full stop in any given sentence? So full stop indicates the end of a sentence. So this is, so as the name indicates, there is a stop. So at any given point, at the end of any sentence, if there is a full stop, it means that that is an end to a sentence. But what kind of a sentence it is? It will be a declarative sentence. So that sentence should not be a question or a explanation. So to take, for example, the sports club was closed yesterday. So if you could see this, this sentence is declaring something. It is declaring that the sports club was closed yesterday. So this way, at the end of this sentence, there is a full stop in place here, which indicates that there is no continuation to this sentence and this sentence has officially ended. Further, so after an end of a sentence, what is the next way in which we could use a full stop? So full stops are also used after abbreviations. So to take, for example, if we are saying instead of doctor, if we are using the abbreviation DR, so after that abbreviation, we use a point or a full stop. So this indicates that this is an abbreviation. Similarly, instead of Mr., if we are using MR, so after MR, we are going to put a full stop or a period. So that is after an abbreviation. Then it is also used between numbers or dates and decimals. So say, for example, if we want to take any particular date. So if we want to indicate 3rd of February, 2024, we have also used the full stop right here. And even in case of decimals. So if I say she got 97.2%. So 0.2 is here used in case of decimals. So this way, not only at the end of sentences, but also after abbreviation and also in between numbers, full stop is used. Now, to understand, there might be certain cases wherein the full stop, even though the use might be essential, is omitted. So let's quickly go to our module to see where and all the full stop is omitted. Yes. So even though these might be the end of sentences, full stops will not be used in all of these cases. Yes. So if you could see after addresses that had letters on the envelope. So if we are taking, say, for example, any particular address. So number 1, street 1, Bangalore. So if you could see here, even though this is the end of an address, the full stop is not used here, even though this is the end of the sentence. So there are many cases like this in which full stop will be omitted. So to look at more examples, so after dates, so say for example, I am saying any particular date. So 18th of December 2024. So I have used full stop in between the dates, but after the dates, it is not going to be used. After name, that ends letters. So various other examples that we can see where full stop is being omitted. After titles of books, newspaper headlines, subheadings, page numbers, and after acronyms which are pronounced as one word. So say, for example, there is a long name and it is abbreviated. So here, like in our earlier case, when we were talking about doctor and Mr., so these are not commonly used abbreviations in terms of they are not a short form of a long word, like multiple long words. So if you could see here, AIDS is actually acquired immune deficiency syndrome, which means that this particular abbreviation is like the first letter of each of the words that form that particular word. So in this case, there is no need to use full stop. But in cases like this, where there is one single word and you have abbreviated it, full stop becomes essential. Similarly, GST is nothing but goods and services tax. But as you can see here, after GST, a full stop is not entered. So again, similarly, more examples will be like World Trade Organization, Greenwich Mean Time, that is GNT, or BBC, that is British Broadcasting Corporation. So in cases like these, full stop will not become essential, even though it looks like full stop is essential. Yes. So moving on to the next part of our punctuation. So after full stop, we have a comma. So comma is again a very commonly used punctuation. So what is the function of a comma? So comma separates phrases within the sentences, separates phrases or helps introduce subordinate clauses. So say for example, we purchased shoes, jeans, purse, and a t-shirt. So if you could see here, there are multiple list of options that are available. So instead of saying we purchased shoes and jeans and purse and a t-shirt, so to make the sentence more crisp and more easy to read and understand, we inserted commas here. So between every particular item that is purchased here, we have introduced a comma, which means that there are subordinate clauses in this, or we are separating phrases or words within sentences. So that is where a comma is used. So now looking into the detailed usage of a comma, let's go back to our module real quick. Yes. So here are the uses of commas which are given in detail in our module. So to read all of these, so some other uses of commas are as follows. To separate main clauses even when they are not linked by a conjunction. So as I was mentioning here, wherever we need to separate the phrases, comma will be used. So the higher the price, the better will be the quality of a goods. So if you could see here, there are two different clauses that are involved as a part of the same sentences. But instead of using a conjunction, we have used a comma in its place. Now, before tags or questions and comments. So here this particular sentence reads, you were late for the meeting, weren't you? So this is a tag that is in addition to this sentence that I am adding here, I'm also asking a question. So to join these two parts of speech, we have used comma here. I was joking, you see. Or when we are saying anything like, this is for your information. Please note. So here there are two different phrases that are involved, and instead of adding a conjunction here, we have used a comma. Yes. So to denote words left out. So Romeo loved Juliet, Majnu Leila. Here it means that instead of using the word loved again, we have used the word, we have used the punctuation mark comma here. So the sentence could be read as follows. So it says Romeo loved Juliet, Majnu loved Leila. So instead of using the word loved twice in the same sentence, we have used a comma here. Further, moving on to the other uses of comma. So we can say enclose additional thoughts, qualification, or information. That is within the word if there are multiple factors that are involved. So say, for example, my son Ajit is the head boy of the school. So instead of saying my son is the head boy of the school, what we have done here, we have inserted a comma here, wrote the name of the son, and then continued with the sentence by inserting another comma here. So if there are multiple, nouns within a sentence, and we want to separate these nouns. So instead of saying my son Ajit is the head boy of the school, by inserting these commas, there is a modulation that is given to the sentence. So the movie was, I believe, well picturized. So this sentence could have been the movie was well picturized, but you want to emphasize that this is your belief. This is as per your belief that the movie was well picturized. Yes. So the next one will be to quote, so to set off direct speech. So what happens is whenever we are speaking in third person and in between we want to quote what another person has said. So before we quote that, we used a comma to understand that now a quote is going to begin. So to quote Confucius, here it says, so before we are quoting that particular person, we have inserted an comma. Then we started with inverted commas where we are saying, he who learns but does not think is lost. He who thinks but does not learn is in great danger. So if you could see here, this particular sentence was quoted by another person. So this person while quoting it, so before we start the quoting, we have a comma here. So this is indicates that after this, the quote will begin. I am tired, he replied. So again, we are differentiating this quote from the rest of the sentence. And to separate this, we are using a comma. Yes. So next up is to separate adjectives, numbers into units, names, titles. So this is what we were discussing earlier when we said we purchased jeans, t-shirt, purse, and a mobile phone or anything like if you are separating items. So say for example here, he is a smart, reliable, sincere, and hardworking student. So we have separated all of these multiple adjectives using a comma. So instead of saying he is a smart, and a reliable and a sincere and a hardworking student. What we have done is we have inserted commas. So this makes the sentence crisp and to the point. Similarly, when we want to bifurcate numbers, that is in whether in tens, hundreds, thousands, lakhs, crores, or millions for that matter, we use commas to give the demarcation or the bifurcation. And this also helps in reading the number better. So if we are writing 1,25,000 here, what we can do is to separate the lakhs and the thousands, we can use a comma here. Again, similarly, when we want to quote multiple degrees that the person holds. So say, for example, this particular person right here. So we are saying they hold a BA, they hold a MA as well as a PhD. And again, to give a reference to the previous topic of discussion, that is our full stops in form of abbreviations. So so this is a Bachelor of Arts. So after B, there's a dot. Again, after A, there is a dot. Similarly, there is MA, there is as well as a PhD. Yes. And last example in comma is if we want to denote any particular designation. So we can say Sri Ramnath Kovind, comma, the President of India. So this way, comma helps in separating the sentences whenever there is a change in the part of speech that we are using, or if there are multiple words or phrases that are being used as a part of the same sentence. Okay. Moving on to the next punctuation mark. So far we saw space, full stop, and comma. Coming to the next one. The next one is hyphen. So hyphen or a dash is a punctuation marks that is used between words to clarify meaning or to link compound words. That is, if we want to link compound words. So say, for example, if we are saying his 8-year-old son. So in this case, even though 8-year-old, they are all three different distinct words. We have used hyphen in between to indicate that this needs to be read as one whole compound word. So instead of saying 8-year-old. So this looks like three different words. So these do not look like they need to be read together. So instead of that, if I am adding hyphens here, 8-year-old, the user can understand that this has to be used as one single term. So his 8-year-old son. So to understand the uses of hyphen better, let's go back to our module. Yes. So it is used in between words to clarify meaning. So say, for example, yes. So commonly, common cases where hyphen will use, we can read it here as follows. So if we are saying ex-partner, half-truth, quasi-judicial, semi-government. So if you can see here, these are all prefixes that were being used. So we had learned in our part one of the parts of the speech, that is, there will be prefixes and suffixes. So if you could see here, these are all prefixes. So ex, half, quasi, semi, self. So these are all prefixes. And whenever a prefixes is used to another word, we can use a hyphen in between to denote that there is a prefix that is added to the word. Similarly, just how we have a prefix, we also have suffixes wherein before adding a suffix, we use a hyphen. So we are saying bull, like get together, profit taking. So all of these are suffixes that are added to the word. And before that particular suffix is added, we have a hyphen that is added in place. So going into more detail, so when the main part of a word begins with the capital letter. So if you could see all of these words, they are proper noun, and obviously proper noun begins with a capital letter. So if you are adding any prefix before a before like a proper noun which includes the first letter to be a capital letter, so after that prefix you add a hyphen. And similarly in the case when the prefix is repeated, so we can say subcommittee. Further, if the sub is repeated twice, so if we are saying subcommittee, so under the subcommittee, there is another subcommittee, then between these two repeated words, we insert a hyphen. Moving further with all the uses of hyphen, so when a noun and a verb are combined to form a word. So if you could see here, we have hand operated. So hand is a noun, whereas operated is a verb. So when we are joining these two, we can say we have to add a hyphen and these two become a compound word. Similarly, we have handwritten. So when we are saying handwritten, hand is a noun, written is a verb, and there is a hyphen that joins the two. Similarly, we can say self-taught. So if we are saying he was a self-taught teacher, then this hyphen becomes the punctuation mark that joins self as well as taught. Similarly, in addition to noun and verb that we just saw, it is also used in case of an adjective as well as a noun that is combined. So if we are saying blue pencil, loose leaf, long grain, open air. So if you could see here, blue, loose, long, open, these are all adjectives that are used to describe the nouns that are in place here. That is pencil, leaf, grained, air, minded, or that matter. Similarly, when two adjectives are combined, we can also use hyphen to combine the two words. Old-fashioned, short-sighted, red-blooded. Now, when compound words express an and relation. So instead of saying, instead of using the word and, if we want to make the word more crisp, we can also add a hyphen in between. So if you could see here, instead of saying, this memory was bitter and sweet. So instead of that, we can say, this memory was bittersweet. So if we have used hyphen here, so this has also shortened the word instead of using a conjunction, and this word becomes more easier to use for the reader. So we have deaf, mute, socioeconomic, secretary, and treasurer. So if we are saying she was the secretary and treasurer of the union, we can say she was the secretary treasurer of the union. Next, we have in between words that are used, and it is also used to link the starting and ending point of a series. Now, say for example, Delhi-Jaipur highway. So Delhi is the starting point of this highway as well as Jaipur is the ending point of the highway. So instead of saying the highway begins at Delhi and ends at Jaipur, we can just use a hyphen, and this will indicate that this highway begins at Delhi and ends at Jaipur. Yes. So just a last few examples for hyphen. When a word has to be broken at the end of a line of printing or writing and to avoid confusion or ambiguity. So we are saying an Indian history teacher or an Indian history teacher. So this way you can read this as one whole word or one word that has to be like read together. Next up, to prevent confusion between a new formation and a conventional word with the same prefix. So if we are saying recreation, now this looks like one single word, but what is it? It is actually the prefix that is being added. So to give a clear demarcation that re is a prefix that is added, we use hyphen here. So as against using recreation, we can use a hyphen here, and this will indicate that these are two separate words, or this is a prefix that is added to an already existing word. So that was the various use of hyphens that we have in place currently. Yes, moving on to the next punctuation mark. So we have the semicolon. So semicolon is again used to separate two or more phrases. But then how is it different from comma? So when we were studying or learning about comma, we understood that comma is used to separate phrases or words within a sentence. So when is semicolon used? Semicolon is also used to separate, but what it is used to separate? Two or more independent clauses, and all of these clauses have equal importance. So semicolon is again used to separate, but the importance is higher here because the clauses or the words that they are separating, they are all of equal importance and they're all independent of each other. So in case of a comma, we were saying, like, say, for example, he is a smart, reliable, and a hardworking student. So these are all related to each other. So smart, reliable, hardworking. So if you could see here, smart, reliable, hardworking, these are all related to each other. It is related to that particular student. So we have used comma. So let's see an example wherein a semicolon is used to separate the phrases or words. So in our Companies Act, we have a definition of a promoter. So here it says promoter means a person. So now, which person will be known as a promoter? So there are three cases in which a person can be called a promoter. So now, again, these three cases are independent of each other, like we were reading earlier. and they all are of equal importance. So even if one of these conditions is satisfied, this person will be called a promoter. And that's why we are saying that all of these three are of equal importance and they are all independent of each other. So if we could just read this definition right here, we are saying a promoter means a person who has been named in the prospectus or identified by the company in the annual report. Then there is a semicolon here, or who has control over affairs of the company. Again, there is a semicolon here, or in accordance with whose advice the board of directors is accustomed to act. So if we could see here, all of these definitions are independent of each other and they're all of equal importance. And that's why instead of a comma, we have used a semicolon. Yes. Moving on to the next punctuation mark. So the next one is a colon. So semicolon is the one which includes both a full stop as well as a comma, but colon includes 2 points right here. So when is colon used? So colon is used to introduce some sort of example, some sort of explanation, again, examples, and to introduce quotations or direct speech. So just like how we use comma to introduce a direct speech, we can also include colon. So if we are saying the types of companies are as follows. So here we are giving an explanation as to what could be the types of the companies. Or if we want to give an example, in that matter also, before we are introducing the examples, we can include a colon. So if we are saying the examples of Nifty 50 companies are as follows. So then after that, we can use a colon just as we have used here. So to introduce the quotations or a speech. So say for example, she said, let's go shopping. So here in this case, we have used a comma to begin a direct speech. Similar way, we can also use a colon. So we can say, she said, let's go shopping. So these are the cases in which colons are used. So far we have read. Yes, so to quickly summarize the punctuation marks that we have dealt with so far. So we saw space, then we had the period or the full stop, then we had comma, semicolon, and hyphen. So now we will begin with the next set of punctuation marks in the English language. Yes. So the next one we have here is apostrophe. So what exactly is apostrophe and when it is used? So apostrophe are those punctuation marks that help in denoting possession, or it is used in contraction of words. So what exactly is denoting possession? So denoting possession is basically if you want to indicate that that particular item belongs to somebody. So if we are saying that is the teacher's book. So we are saying, so instead of saying the book belongs to the teacher, we can shorten the entire sentence by saying this is the teacher's book. So here apostrophe indicates that this book belongs to the teacher. So that is one use of apostrophe. And next is contraction of words. So if we want to reduce the number of words that we are using. So if we want to say, isn't it a great day? So here, instead of saying, is it not a great day? What we have said, we have abbreviated is or not, and then we have said, is it? So this way, it helps in contraction of words. So the main aim of all of these punctuations is to give modulation, to accentuate the manner in which we are using the words, and to keep the sentence as short and understandable as possible. Yes. Moving on to the next one. So quotation marks. So quotation marks are basically inverted commas or apostrophes that are used, that is for phrases to introduce within a text. So like we were seeing earlier in case of a direct speech. So whenever we began a direct speech, we introduced commas in between. So when we said, she said, let's go shopping. So here we were introducing a direct speech here. So how do we know that this particular speech is direct? Because we have separated this from our earlier sentence using inverted commas. So for phrases introduced within a text. So this is the phrase, that is let's go shopping is the phrase, and it is introduced within this particular sentence. So to give a demarcation that this is a direct speech as against the indirect speech that is used here, we have used quotation marks or inverted commas. So this can be single or double inverted commas, but the only rule that applies here is if we are starting the sentence with a single inverted comma, we have to end it with a single inverted comma. And if we are starting it with double inverted commas, we have to end it with double inverted commas. So now let's quickly go back to the module to see if there are any examples we can use to understand all of these better. So firstly, for semicolon, like we were mentioning, it is to separate two or more independent clauses. So here we have an example where we are saying to err is human, to forgive is divine. So as important as this forms a part of the sentence, to forgive divine also forms an equally part of the sentence. And that's why there is a semicolon that is used here. So again, it is used to join words, group of words or sentences. So now if we take this example right here, those present at the function included Mr. and Mrs. J. So we are separating this by a comma. Their children, Usha, Amit, and Raghu. So this indicates the first set of people that were present at the function. Now, moving on to the next set of people that are there. So we have a semicolon that is inserted here. Paul and Joe Thomas. Then we have a semicolon. Raj and Ravi Malhotra, Colonel and Mrs. James, and their children, Jyotsna, Julie, and James Jr. So if we can see here, there is this sentences is divided with multiple punctuation marks. So we have a full stop that is used, that is an abbreviation. So there is a full stop that is used after Mr. Then there is a comma that is used here, and further there are semicolons that is used here. And in the end, we have also used a full stop. Yes. So now moving on to the next punctuation mark that we studied. So we had the colon. So like we were saying, it was to introduce something. So that something could be explanation or it could be examples for that matter. So now say for example, yes. After 60 years in the business, Mr. Rajan realized that there was only one certainty in life, the inevitability of change. So here we have introduced another phrase within this particular sentence. So if you could see here, we have used a colon right here before we are introducing another explanation or another phrase. Yes. So to introduce the question. So if we are telling somebody something and then that is followed by a question. So before we start the question, we can include a colon right here. So it says, they all agreed that the essential issue was simply this, colon, will making an investment in Sweatland Limited be a mistake or not? So there is a question that comes into place here, but before introducing a question, we have inserted a colon. To link contrasting statements, man proposes, God disposes. So now to substitute a conjunction. Another Monday morning, it is pouring. So if we do not use the and here, that is also absolutely fine because we have used a colon here. After headings and correspondence. So now say for example, we are writing a letter. So if we want to say what is the subject of the letter. So we will say subject, colon, and then we will continue with the title. So this way, there are multiple uses of colon depending on the situation in which we are going to use them. Similarly, subtitles. So in addition to subject and references, we can also use it in subtitles. That is credit cards. So what is credit cards? They are basically the power of plastic. So in bibliographical references where colon can be used after the place of publication. So this is a very specific usage of colon. So just an example here, if we are saying this particular book was published in Delhi in the year 2010, we can demarcate these two using a colon. Moving on to the next speech. Next punctuation that we dealt with. So we have an apostrophe. So like I was mentioning, it is either possession or contraction of words. So now it was the court's order. So whose order what is? It was the court's order. So this is including possession of the order. Isn't it a great day? Can't you come today? So instead of saying cannot, we can say can't as well. Now, what are the types of, so when we are using apostrophe as a part of possession, so there can be two types. So there will be singular or there can be plural as well. So in case of singular, we will use the apostrophe before the S. So if we are saying that was the teacher's book, so this indicates that this is for one particular teacher. Whereas if we are saying that was the teachers' union, so it indicates that this union belongs to all the teachers. So what we have done here, we have used the apostrophe after the S here. So depending on the situation. So if it is singular, we will add the apostrophe before the S. And if it is plural, we will add the apostrophe after the entire word has ended. Yes. So now apostrophe can also be used in the contraction of some single words. So now a very commonly used example is right here. So 7 o'clock. So when before, instead of saying it is 7 on the clock or 7 of the clock, we can say 7 O followed by an apostrophe clock. So this will help in abbreviating the entire phrase. And certain words that are in common use. So instead of madam, we can say MA apostrophe AM, which can be pronounced as either ma'am or madam. So this will help us in shortening the words and used to denote omission of part of some number. The swinging 60s. So he is a 90s kid. So instead of saying he was born in the 1990s, we can say 90s kids. So this will help us in understanding the time period that we are talking about. So to denote certain names, especially of the Celtic origin, so there are a lot of names like O'Connor, O'Sullivan. So these are all very specific instances and scenarios in which we can use the apostrophe. Yes. Next, we had the quotation mark or the inverted commas. So here, this is, for example, the motto of the market was. So now we are introducing two mottos of the market. So before we begin with introducing the two mottos, we have put them in inverted commas. So like I was mentioning earlier, these started with double inverted commas. So they're also ending with double inverted commas. So yes, there are two types, that is double, single, as well as double inverted commas. Yes. So now moving on to the last few types of punctuation marks in the English language. So exclamation point. This is another very commonly used punctuation mark. And this is when there is like a exclamation that forms a part of the sentence. Like say, for example, wow. So we also dealt with this in the parts of the speech wherein wow becomes an exclamation. And after this exclamation, to end that particular sentence, we use a exclamation point. So if we are saying, wow, what a great day. So this is an exclamation wherein we are showing excitement when we are talking about our day. So what a great day. And it has ended with an exclamation point or hooray. So this particular exclamatory word ends with an exclamatory point or an exclamatory statement. Yes, the next one, again, a very commonly used punctuation is a question mark. So question mark is used at the end of a sentence or at the end of a question. So if we are saying, how was your day? So how was your day is a question. And this sentence ends only with the use of a question mark. So this question mark indicates that this particular sentence is in the form of a question. So any given sentence ends with three main types of punctuations. So it can either be a full stop, or it can be a question mark, or it can be a exclamation or a exclamation point. So full stop is used in any kind of sentences that is not a question or an exclamation. Question mark is used at the end of a question, and exclamation point is used whenever the sentence contains some kind of excitement. So these are the three common punctuation marks that are used towards the end of a sentence as against the other punctuation marks which are used within the sentences. So our comma, colon, semicolon, hyphen, all of these used are in between the sentences, and these three are the punctuation marks that are used towards the end of any given sentence. Yes, so we have come to the last type of punctuation mark that we have as a part of our chapter, that is brackets. So brackets or braces. So there are multiple types of brackets that are used in the English language. So just to understand a few types, we have crescent brackets as well as square brackets. So whenever we want to give any abbreviation or references, we use crescent brackets. So say for example, if we are saying the Ministry of Corporate Affairs introduced a circular or introduced a new rule. So Ministry of Corporate Affairs is the entire word. And now if we want to write the abbreviation here, we can write MCA within crescent brackets. So this indicates that this particular MCA is the abbreviation of Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And further, if we want to give references to any particular. So the graph indicates. So now if we are saying the graph indicates, now we want to show which graph it is. We want to give a reference to the graph. So if we are saying the graph number 1.1. So we are giving a reference to the graph that we are talking to about here. So crescent brackets is usually used in case of like abbreviation or references. Now, if we want to use square brackets, so where can square brackets be used? So square brackets are used in cases where words are omitted from the sentence or they were not originally a part of the sentence. So they were added to the sentence. So if that has to be indicated, then we use square brackets. So if we are saying the thieves hid for 2 days. So now, if we want to add where exactly they were hiding, so we can say the thieves hid in the village. So if you could see here, in the village didn't originally form a part of the sentence, but we want to show the place exactly where they hid, then we can do so by using the square brackets right here. And further, moving forward, we also have two more types of brackets, that is the curly brackets as well as the angle brackets. So curly brackets are usually included to denote a group or a set. So if we are saying the first set comprises of, so if we can say the first set A, B, C, D. So here we have used curly brackets, and further angle bracket is used in case of a different language that is used. Like say for example, if we want to include any code or any name of a website. So you can say these classes are available at www.excelacademy.com. So here there is a website that is introduced that this is not the English language, but this is a coding language where we have the website that is mentioned. So that can be mentioned with the form of the angle bracket. So just to quickly summarize, we have four types of brackets that we saw into place. That is our crescent bracket, that is the first one. Then we have the square bracket, curly bracket, and the last one is angle bracket. So that brings us to the end of our punctuation marks as a part of our first chapter, that is English grammar and its usage. So to quickly summarize all the punctuations that we learned. So firstly, we have a full stop. So what exactly a full stop does? It gives us the end of any particular sentence, or it is used after an abbreviation. And then we have comma. So comma includes, it helps us in separating words, phrases, or sentences. And a hyphen is in between words or before giving any explanation. And then we have a semicolon. Again, it is used to separate but independent clauses. And then we have a colon. So colon is used to introduce any sort of explanation or examples. And then we have the apostrophe. So apostrophe is used to indicate possession, or if we want to contract, that is shorten any form of word. Then we have a quotation mark, that is to sub-introduce any sentence, introduce a phrase within an already existing sentence. Then we have the four different types of brackets, the usage of which we just saw. And in addition to that, we have the question mark that is used at the end of any question. And then we have the exclamatory mark or the explanatory point, so which is used at the end of any particular exclamation. Yes, so these are all the punctuation marks that are used in the English language. That is in order to enhance the quality of sentences that we are using, to give modulation to all the sentences, and to provide better clarity on all the sentences that we are using. Thank you so much for coming to this class. So we have dealt with the entire first chapter, that is English grammar and its usage, that forms a part of CSEET business communication. So we will be back shortly with the next class. Thank you so much.